Russian hospital. There was one on Saturday in a hospital in Moscow that killed one patient. And for the latest, we're joined by Sarah Rainsford of the BBC via Skype. And Sarah, what more can you tell us about this hospital fire in St. Petersburg today?
Well, we know that the 5 people who died were hooked up to ventilators in the intensive care unit of this hospital in St. Petersburg. It was one of the hospitals that had been repurposed to deal specifically with COVID-19 cases. The fire, we understand, broke out when a ventilator essentially caught fire with some kind of short circuit. The staff and personnel in the hospital were able to evacuate some 15 people from the intensive care unit, but those 5 who were on ventilators, they couldn't save. And so they have lost their lives. Now, we know, as you mentioned, there was a similar situation in a hospital in Moscow when one patient who was hooked up to a ventilator died again when there was a short circuit in the machine. These are the same machines provided by a company in production, manufacturer in the Urals. And so there are big questions now about the reliability of those machines, and also questions over whether they were produced very quickly in a hurry because of the demand, the huge demand there is, of course, for ventilators in this pandemic.
So the focus is on the production company that created these ventilators. Does this also say anything about Russia's healthcare system?
Well, I think, Russia, as every other country in the world that's dealing with this pandemic, it is seeing its healthcare system struggle. It is under intense pressure. We understand from officials here that we speak to, and also doctors as well, that there is capacity in the system at the moment. So there are beds available specifically in Moscow. But for example, I'm just outside Moscow now, in Moscow region, and we're just speaking to a man who runs a care home here, who said only yesterday, when an ambulance came to take one of his residents into hospital with suspected COVID-19, they couldn't find a bed in the Moscow region. So there obviously is a problem. There obviously is pressure on the system, and the infection rate here in Russia is still increasing.
Yeah, I want to talk to you a little bit more about that, but I also want to ask you about this news today that President Putin's spokesman is in the hospital being treated for COVID-19. Does this mean Putin was also exposed?
Well, Mr. Peskov has said no, because he says he hasn't been physically with Mr. Putin for over a month, he said. And we certainly know that President Putin some weeks ago did essentially retreat to his residence just outside Moscow, and he's been holding video conference calls with all his regional governors and with government ministers from there for some time now. And in fact, that happened after he himself was exposed to the virus directly when he visited a hospital and he met the chief doctor there, and that chief doctor later tested positive. And I think it's probably around the same time as that his spokesperson also stopped having direct contact with Mr. Putin. So we don't think he's been exposed, but we also know, of course, that the Prime Minister is in hospital with coronavirus, said to be doing okay, but a number of government ministers have now been infected.
You mentioned the rise in coronavirus cases. So Russia is now reporting that there are more than 230,000 cases. That's second to the United States. But the U.S. has now more than 80,000 deaths reported, and Russia just over 2,000. I think you and I talked about this before, really questioning how accurate these numbers are. They seem relatively low comparatively.
They do, and certainly we're questioning them all the time. I think there's lots of things to say there. I mean, first of all, whether or not a person is counted as a COVID-19 death varies very much from country to country. Here in Russia, many people, I think, are dying with COVID-19 who are counted as dying, for example, from a heart attack or a blood clot or something else. But certainly I think what's interesting, what's emerged in the last couple of days, is the excess mortality figures for Moscow specifically, and they have shown that the number of people dying with COVID-19 appears to be underreported, but still the numbers are a lot lower than we've seen in Europe, for example, or the United States.